Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another SEMA meeting, and I want to welcome each one of you. In fact, some of the people I haven't seen for ages. It's beautiful to see you all here. And as you know, we have a fantastic speaker for tonight. But before we go in for the introduction, I would like to officially, on behalf of the SEMA and everybody, wish Madeline, our Madam Chair, a happy birthday, a beautiful year, and amazing. So, yes, so anyway, it was her birthday. So happy birthday, Madeline, from the SEMA family. Also would like to recognize amazing achievement of our one of board members, Stan, with his latest film production that is basically taking all over the world, I believe, all the festivals. I want to say, Stan, officially, we congratulate you. We are proud of you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
And wish you more success. Thank you. That's there. And before I do the introduction, I want to ask our Madam Chair to see if she has a few words for the members as well. Madam, it's your.
Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to welcome everybody, and nice to see some faces that we haven't seen because of COVID and other situations. Good to see also Ace Alvarez, who, there he is, previous past president, join us as well. And Miriam's is here, as well as Renato from Vancouver, Stan from Edmonton. Mohammed, are you in Toronto?
Yes.
Yes, good to see you, Kay Alabi and Roberto. And this should be a very interesting session that is very timely for challenging times, both from an economic point of view, both from a growth point of view. We're all allies and friends, and always trying to evolve, trying to evolve and develop ethnic media. And we're hoping to give everybody the tools today with Sharifa Khan from Balmoral and Johnson to help us move forward.
Perfect.
So now for the official.
Yeah, well, it's again, Sharifa Khan. Miss Sharifa Khan is a very dear friend to us, and it's not just a speaker, but it's been always with SEMA, and now we have her. It's very beautiful to have her and as a speaker. So I'm going to do a kind of a shortened, a long introduction because she has achieved a lot, but I just wanted to attend some of the highlights. Well, I'm going to read it. Ms. Sharifa Khan is the president and the CEO of the Balmoral Multicultural Marketing, which celebrated its 30th anniversary in 2019. It is the oldest multicultural marketing agency in Canada, where she leads a team of seasoned ethnic marketing professionals to service corporate, government, and nonprofit organizations. She has helped brands connect and engage with Canada's diverse ethnic communities. Her motto is building bridges of understanding. She is a maestro in putting a cultural lens to strategy and brands to drive considerations and solidify relationship between mainstream and these ever-growing market segments. She has led her agencies in winning numerous medals at the CASI, the Strategy Marketing Awards, and the Summit International Awards for Ontario Lottery and Gaming Commission, OLG, BMW, Canada Life, Ottawa Tourism, Brita, and Clorox. Balmoral clients have included Government of Ontario, OLG, BMW, Fido, Rogers, Canada Life, Ottawa Tourism, Clorox, Metrolinx, Brita, Dairy Farmers, and so many other ones, and it says just to name a few. Balmoral Marketing has offices in China, India, and Hong Kong. In a personal matter, in 1999, Sharifa was awarded a federal recognition from then Prime Minister Jean Chrétien for her entrepreneurial success. In 2002, she was the recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Golden Jubilee Award, and in 2012, the Diamond Jubilee Awards. In 2004, she received the Alumni Achievements Award from Ryerson University. She is also a recipient of the 2013 Top 25 Canadian Immigrant Award for Achievements. And in 2018, Sharifa was named one of the 18 women of influence in Canada. If it's not impressive, I don't know what I should be. Ladies and gentlemen, here's our speaker for the event, Ms. Sharifa Khan. Sharifa.
Thank you, Q. And it's such a pleasure for me because
tonight to be presenting to old friends and new friends like Avro. My God, I knew you more than 20 years. And I've known Madeline and Seema for over 30 years. And I've always said that to Madeline. We met each other when we were 15, right? So it's not really that long time ago. And during all these times, I have participated in numerous SEMA events. And just actually a couple of years ago, Hugh and Madeline and me, we joined forces and conducted presentations to directors of communications of over 20 ministry of the government of Ontario, stressing to them the importance that they have to connect with the ethnic media in order to reach the diverse community and the constituents they want to connect with. What we did was at that time provide them with evidence why they have to do so. So Madeline, there has been a little bit of dent, Madeline, and I've seen some progress, but as you and I know, it's still a long way to go. And we have to keep beating our drum. That's what we have to do. So today my talk is what corporate marketers are looking for from ethnic media today. It's not just looking at ethnic media, but they also are looking at agency like us to be able to find the data and the evidence of the target market, and so that we would be able to plan forward and help them chart the waters and be engaging with ethnic media like yourself. So there is a role we play as the middle person that we guide the corporate marketers to you. And there's a lot that has to be done. What is multicultural marketing? So it's a discipline that is helping brands to be and to engage with the consumers outside of what we call mainstream. And it targets consumer segments based on their ethnicity, based on their social cultural patterns, and so that they would be able to build a deeper emotional connection with these diverse ethnic groups. And of course, the objective is they want to promote their company profile. They want to promote a brand. They want to increase the awareness of their products and services. And by doing so, they want to drive consideration for whatever they're doing. So multicultural marketing is actually a segment marketing, which many call niche marketing, such as marketing to millennials, marketing to mothers, marketing to LGBTQ. Johnson, I think I need the next one. Why is multicultural marketing important today to corporate Canada? It is definitely important today, but also at the same time, we have to do our own, we means agency, have to do our own diligence, which is proving today the dynamic growth of of these ethnic communities in Canada. Johnson? So we have to constantly be giving them proof points as to what is happening in the lay of the land. So you could see from this chart, and I know that the census that we just conducted census, it will be coming out next year, that already that in 2013, just 15 million ethnic community individuals, that is like half of the Caucasian numbers, and it's still growing. And that's just a projection of what we have right now. And the other chart that is coming is also, there is also a report that actually I saw a couple of days ago that showed that in 2021, Canada is allowing 400 and 100,000, immigrants to come in. That is living to the promise that was by Justin Trudeau about 2 years ago, that Canada would like to welcome 1.2 million immigrants in the next 3 years. So this is the latest statistic at the number. And of course, the immigrants they're welcoming is under the economic class of skilled workers and professionals and also entrepreneurs. That makes up 60% of immigrants. And even during COVID time, you know, that there are still flocks, immigrants are still flocking to Canada, because I'm sure you have seen an article not that long ago. Canada has been voted as the best country to live in. These are very valid reasons why we are having more and more immigrants. So the next chart of some of the groups with the highest population in Canada and where they are concentrated. These are some of the data that we as agencies have to show the size of the prize as business opportunities for corporations. Of course, they choose to, of course, if they choose to cultivate the relationship with these immigrant markets, they would have to go through the conduit. But who's the conduit? Who's the channel? Is yourself, you, the ethnic media. Next chart. What would capture new markets, and why do they have to capture new markets? Implementing multicultural marketing strategy via ethnic media delivers an incremental market share for these businesses. You must have also heard time and time again how mainstream consumption of CPGs has actually flattened out for a long time because of fierce competition. There's a joke that we always said, like, how many times does a Canadian brush his teeth? Twice, right? Usually once in the morning and once at night. So how many toothpaste would he use? So he would just use twice a day. So in order to have incremental market, these CPG have to look for new market to build additional market share. It allows marketers to find new growth sectors and also create influence within these untapped communities. At the end of the day, by capturing new markets, they would increase overall consumption base, overall consumer base and consumption. Johnson. There's also research that have shown ethnic consumer over-indexed against general population. Both Chinese and South Asian over-index against mainstream consumer across these categories. You can look at there's groceries, there's household products, there's electronic, cell phone and MasterCard expenditure. Why? Because generally ethnic families, we are bigger in size and we have more children. This is part of our tradition and culture. Multi-generations live together, which means there's larger consumption. There's also been a report not that long ago, which is actually quite funny, that said mainstream Canadian families have on an average 1.2 children. So I laughed. I said, I don't know how they get that 0.2 children, but that comes out from a research. So next slide. So look at the buying power. There are syndicated report out there. This is actually done by Vivental, part of their research for Canada and also in major cities, that in Toronto and Vancouver alone, for Chinese consumers 18 and over, there's approximately $61 billion in consumer spending, making a valuable consumer segment that cannot be ignored by brands. Also here, it shows the categories that these Chinese consumer shops, and on an average, they still have been preferred to shop in store. But of course, under that's only under normal circumstances, because COVID, of course, have changed the dynamics of everything. But all the major malls right now are trying to gauge what is happening to the shopping center. These consumers coming back the way they have before? This is before COVID, and you can see on an average, they love to be shopping in stores. Next. So this gives a also South Asian immigrants in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and Edmonton. And look at the number, 91% were not born in Canada in these cities. Most importantly, they said they are more likely to interact and try products that advertise in their own language. And of course, they do celebrate their festivity, Diwali, but they also celebrate things like Mother's Day, Black Friday. And that's what we call in our marketing term that immigrants come here and they also adapted and have what we call duality of life. Duality of life, which means they keep their tradition and culture and language, but also at the same time, they embrace Canadiana. What are some of the things Canadians do? They would like to also do that. Next one. This slide shows what items they like to shop for South Asian in store and what they shop online. And generally, they love to shop like in store because it's touch and feel, automotive, groceries, home improvement, health improvement. But they would go and shop online equally with electronic device, toys, and definitely cosmetics. And that's why Sephora is doing so well. So these are just some of the behavior of Chinese and South Asian consumer. Media consumption. Media consumption, corporate marketers are very, very interested in media consumption of multicultural communities. Here we show, which is for working professional and international students, age 20 to 39. They would like to know what language they prefer, English or both. Their habits in their home country, their website, their social media habit. What platforms do they use with social media? These are very important questions that corporate marketers would ask. For example, here, 60% of newcomers consume a mix of English and in-language content. They are highly engaged with in-country websites, and also try new apps. So there's a lot of preference as to right now, what do they go for? They go for TV, they go for online. They would still go for traditional print, but in a lower way. But definitely it shows with a nutshell. And then of course in social media, Facebook, WeChat, TikTok, Douyin, Weibo. So these are some of the social media apps that they use. And the other group, which is immigrant families, 80% of international born millennials in Canada consume in language. That's a very interesting data. Very engaged in country sites and apps. Of course, many are proficient in English, but these programs, they only relate to programs that are in language. So media consumption, as far as a corporate marketer is concerned, is very, very important because they want to target segments within segments. They want to target not just like all South Asian, but they maybe just want to target the working professionals. So it is very important that we provide our clients media profile, media consumption habits, and data for them. And the next slide, of course, language matters. Language is a powerful tool marketers would use to show multicultural community that brand understand what they need and value. You could see from this research that for Chinese and South Asian, I feel closer to a brand that advertise in my own language. I pay more attention to them. I'm more likely to interact or try their product. Corporate marketers have been trying to place an ad and hope that it will resonate with multicultural audience. Of course, many immigrants do understand English, but they might not understand the slogan, which is usually a play on words in English words. Language matters, because if you use English to speak to immigrants, You are speaking to them. And when you are using in language, you are really talking to them and connecting with these immigrants through their cultural lens. So we come to data. In today's environment, clients are extremely cautious about investing the media dollar with the right channels. They want to know the personalities of these ethnic groups and what is the best platform to reach them, which we call persona targeting. Clients seeks data. The data is king. They seek data that includes the demographics, the media consumption, the psychographics, the buying power, and also target highly nuanced multicultural audiences. All these data is utilized, just hold on a second, sorry. All this data is utilized by agency like us to create the most appropriate mix of channels to reach the right user. For example, targeting value-driven consumers by a discount grocery store. We will target high-value consumers by a luxury auto company. So that's what we call persona targeting. Another thing is measurability and scalability for a client. It's very, very important. When we plan a targeted campaign, it is important for media to be able to be measured. So agency and clients know that the ads have been delivered to the intended target groups. Actually, there are ethnic media outlets there that they have the mechanism to be measured. I know for a fact not all of you have that mechanism, but some of you already have started going down that route. They actually go into partnership with media publishers, such as Google and Facebook and other platforms, to be part of their ad serve. However, to be measurable with these media publishers, you would have to do your internal homework in getting your assets ready, such as digitizing your finance section, your lifestyle section, your entertainment section, consumer community news section, in order to make it work, to be part of their ad serve. Your media also has to be scalable. For example, to reach means maximum number of targeted people within a designated group. How to reach the maximum number. Yet at the same time, it does not mean you throw the net out, does not mean that it is targeted. So it has to be scalable. It has to be looked into what exactly the clients, which market segment they're looking for. Are they looking for people that are millennials within certain ethnic group? Are they looking for mothers that are decision makers in grocery shopping? The next slide is transparency. Media delivery is getting increasingly transparent. Clients expect this, and they expect transparency, not just with mainstream media, but they expect that with ethnic media. This is a recent transformation across the entire media industry. Agency needs to provide live dashboard, and you could see there, to report all campaigns performance data in real time. In real time on these dashboards, one can see which media is not delivering well and which one is. This allows agency and also brands to evaluate efficiency at any one time and be able to optimize their media dollar investment where it is most effective. This is what is happening within the industry right now because clients expect to know where their dollars are going and whether it is creating value for them. The other point is incremental impact over mainstream channels. Besides measurability and transparency, the next point is that how incremental impact multicultural media delivers over mainstream. The key is to achieve high media efficiency within ethnic media, minimizing overlap with mainstream channels. Even though a client might put an ad in mainstream media, and you, as a consumer, might see it. But if the same ad is placed through ethnic media channels that you frequent, the platforms you frequent, you will have a better recall, especially if it's in language. So these are some of the data and insights that we definitely have to be able to prove to clients in order for them to understand what is relevant to the ethnic market, and also for the ethnic media industry to look at yourself, how you are going to step up to be able to meet the criteria of corporate marketers. Brand safety. I cannot say more about how important this is, one of the most important responsibilities of agencies, and also the need of collaboration for us to work with you, ethnic media, to achieve brand safety for clients. Brand want to ensure that their ads are being served in the right content. Content media is important, but they do not want their ad to be seen alongside of a content that is negative, that is too controversial, that would impact their brand. For example, a car insurance company would not want to place an ad where there is a coverage of a car crash. A gambling corporation would not want to put their ad next to news of addiction. So brand safety is 100% important for corporate clients. And these are some of the things that we have to work collaboratively with ethnic media to ensure that it's being achieved. If ever they find that the brand safety is not protected, you would not see them come back again. So the next slide is about strong ties with communities. Clients always look for established media organization that can help them to be connected with these diverse communities, with strong community connection. This is where you, ethnic media, can act as a conduit and provide clients with participation and access opportunities. This is an opportunity also for yourself to build your own profile, and also enhancing credibility, because you can actually do this for the client. And I want to leave with a couple of tips for you before I end this chat. 3 tips. Embrace storytelling with data. Share case studies of impact that you have delivered for other advertisers in the past. It doesn't matter whether they're big ones or small ones. Show your prospects, your prospective client, how you have established measurable objectives and how you have delivered them in flying colors. Past experience and past successful campaigns that you have helped your clients, it should be used to be pitched to new clients. You want to show how big your audience, how big the audience that you have helped that client reach, how much audience trust that your voice, that trust your voice, and how engaged they are with you and also with your advertisers. So if companies see that, they would more apt to invest budget with you. The next thing is pitch integrated. If your media organization has print, online TV, websites, and radio, pitch integrated traditional, digital, and social media reach as a package. show all the different ways in which you can deliver value and engagement with your audience. Because if you are print, actually right now with COVID, it's very difficult to have print and for people to pick it up or even be delivered. So you should really be able to put your print and digitize them and put it on your website. So times have changed and you have to adapt to the times. Sell back to your advertisers. Once a advertising campaign is already completed, it's critical for you to sell back and emphasize the results that you have. It may be obvious. They said, oh, well, I know that it has reached certain number of people, but the sell back step will secure more budget for you in the future because you have proven yourself to be successful in reaching the target groups, and it will be more budget for you and in the long term. I cannot emphasize enough that what our agency have done is that to develop very tight and strong relationship with media, ethnic media, because we are partners and we are the ones that help you showcase your value, showcase that you can reach the target groups that our corporate clients want. And I could see moving forward that this is only the tip of the iceberg. And I think more and more corporate marketers, with all the changing dynamics of immigrants coming in, they are more and more paying attention to it. I've always said that I would not want corporate marketers to be thinking of reaching out to ethnic community as, oh, something that is good to have. And then they just check it off a box. Okay, by the way, we should really try to reach out to certain communities. But I would love to see one day that it will be 100% at the table when they are planning any corporate campaign, and it would be something it's to be have and should be have there all the time at the table when they're planning their marketing plan and campaign. Okay, I hope I haven't gone too long. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope that I have provided some material, food for thoughts.
Thank you very much, Sharifa. That was very detailed, and thank you for the tips. And now we're going to open it up for interaction and questions. Q, would you like to kick that off?
Well, I wanted to, first of all, say thank you very much for basically Sharifa for this amazing information. It just takes some time to digest and analyze it and see how we can incorporate it into our business. What do you think that was the biggest impact of the COVID to the businesses in terms of this transition? What do you think that, what's your views about that we are going through in terms of businesses? What should we do first step?
Well, I think there are certain business that is already during COVID have been doing quite well. For example, the grocery industries and the pharmacies like Shoppers Drug Mart, Rexdale. The grocery industry is booming like crazy because during COVID time, that people tend to buy more groceries and eat at home because they can't go out to eat. So there are certain industry that has still thriving during COVID time, and they will continue to thrive because, you know, if you look at some of the maybe the annual general financial report of like Empire, which owns Sobeys, they made a lot of money, and they made so much money that they bought 40% of Longo's, you know. So you should look at, in a sense, and it's actually our job too, as to during COVID time, which are some of the brands that have stood out despite COVID. And then those are the number one targets that we should reach out to. I know that for a fact that banks, they have put a pause in advertising because they really don't know what is happening out there. They don't know what is happening to inflation, to the interest rate. But also some of the other industry friends that we have, agency, said there's a lot of um, pent up emotions about purchasing, that people have not been able to spend the way they spend, and they've been locked down at home. And from some of the market experts say that if everything, not probably by 2022, but by 2023, everything will be bursting out of the gate, because people want to have that feeling of being able to go out there and be able to go into a mall. But even as malls, they also have to change the way their model, because you can no longer be just a retail store. Malls are rethinking the way what they are. They has to be a place called destination. It has to be more than going shopping in malls. It has to have attraction. So a lot of existing model of businesses will change after COVID.
Okay, all right. Madeline, I don't know if somebody's going to ask. I don't have that control. So if anybody wants to have a question, please raise your hand or through the virtual so we can see it. Stan, would you be able to control that, or who does that? Madeline, you can do that?
Yeah, no, we could see whoever has a question, just put up your hand.
Oh yeah, because I don't see.
First come, first serve. So I see Roberto, question.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it, is if you put it on and you just kind of go through the first person there.
And please introduce yourself and your media entity. That would be, I think, helpful for Sharifa and Johnson.
Hi, my name is Roberto from Latin Life News. On our 16th anniversary this year, I must say.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Listen, I am fascinated by some of the numbers you presented in the beginning, those exact percentages by ethnic groups and by who buys what. So out of curiosity, where do those numbers come from? Because they are so exact and precise that it's mind-boggling.
Well, we as agency, we do a lot of research ourselves, okay? Not only do we do our own research, but we also buy into syndicated research. And it's very important that there are, where you, for example, IPG brands, they would have research based on the media consumption of many groups, towards whether it's to print, to out of home. And also we go into various data banks. Either some of them are actually free online, and some of them you have to purchase. So what we provide clients have to be evident. It's not something that is anecdotal. It's not something, it's such a hunch that this is the percentage. So everything has to be evident. So what we also have done is, for example, StatsCan, which was in 2016. So we continue to track the immigration of each group per year. For example, after 2016, the average income incoming immigrants is about 30 to 35. But however, with South per year, 35,000, okay? And by South Asian, it has grown leaps and bounds. So it has been, in the past couple of years, 80,000 South Asian immigrants coming in. And they are very much in the technology sector because they're very good at that. And it will continue to grow. I mean, in the chart, I show 1.9, actually South Asian, they are already at 2 million. So so we compile the data, and at times we compile it and put it into charts ourselves, so that it would more readily be presentable.
Okay. Yeah, Mohammed, go ahead.
Yes, first of all, thank you very much for outstanding presentation. I really enjoyed, and as the reporter said, partially you answered the question. My question is, you talk generally, for example, South Asian, Chinese, but specific communities. How would anyone could find, for example, if somebody, I'm from the Somali radio and TV, on Omni and Chin, and also Alberta, Omni Alberta. always they ask us those kind of questions. How many numbers? What are the numbers of your community? And we have to say, so how would anyone could know specific communities? I mean, the number you presented is beautiful, as Roberta said, but go down or specific. How could I come up with like, for example, East African or African or whatever?
First of all, actually, Mohammed, if you go into immigration and citizenship in the data bank of the government, it does provide a very good breakdown of origin that are in Canada. It's actually one of the resources that you can tap into. Secondly, you can actually be able to do your own research. You could implement a contest, somehow, and be able to do your own research so that you would be able to get to justify the database. Everybody start their initial numbers from the StatsCan numbers, and it's as good as it gets, and it's believable, and it's by the government of Canada. So corporate clients believe very much in that. So whether you yourself or one of your staff should really go to that at first. And then you can work in cooperation with some of your community organization and do a syndicated research with some of your communities and be able at least to get some numbers to enhance that. And even with your group, there's many sect, right? It's not just homogeneous. So what you should do is lump that together. So the groups that a lot of corporate marketers are interested in, obviously, is Chinese because of pure population. South Asian, which includes the ones that are from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Tamil. And they would look at Middle Eastern, Arabic, countries, and many of the countries. So what they do is they would look at in groups, So what you should do with your group, that you might want to lump together the groups that are similar in culture, similar in tradition, similar in behavior. So, and that's where you would be able to get the numbers you want. Having small numbers doesn't mean that you cannot pitch your numbers, because especially for government agency and crown corporation, a lot of times they don't care whether you have a big population or a small population. For example, let's say a crown corporation, let's say Metrolinx, okay? Because they want to talk about transportation to all the communities. And your community lives in certain pockets, and certain pockets that are being affected by the building of, let's say, Crosstown, Eglinton, being affected by Hurontario LRT. So they are not looking at the numbers. They are looking at communities that can be affected by their transportation. They are building new LRT, they're building new subways. So there's many means. So do not give up. But also at the same time, if you are, that's why I said integrated pitch. You should integrate whatever you have, your website, your print, if you have a radio station, or if you have online TV.
Great. Thank you. I see the next question is coming from Bill Yankoff.
Yes, thank you, Madeline. My question is, you talked about cross-reference vis-a-vis different ethnic groups. Macedonian is my heritage, and I produce the Macedonian show for Omni Television. But we have a lot of ethnic groups whose languages are very similar to other languages. For example, for Macedonian, it's a South Slavic language, so it's similar to Bulgarian, Serbian, Croatian, and similar as well, not as much, but similar to Ukrainian, Russian, Polish, Belarusian, and other languages. So can that cross-language effect be a marketable commodity for languages which have other languages that they're close to?
Well, I don't think they will slice and dice. It's really talking about budgets, Franco. It's really, So what they would do, like for example, I'll give you an example with South Asian, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they would have Hindi, Punjabi, and they would have all sorts of dialects, right? So I heard there are hundreds of dialects that are within the South Asian community. But I think what they also is looking at which group, which language, and which group has the highest number and propensity for them to be worth investing their dollar. If you said that you have 10 languages, I can assure you they won't go for it. But then for salvation, they would actually would go for the Punjabi, they would go for Hindi, because there's enough of them speaking it. And at times we do it in what we called English, and always also in Tamil, which is also a big group. Uh, I don't want to tell you that they will slice and dice the language, but they always have looking at the biggest number and the most common language that are speak by all these groups.
No, but I understand. But there's a lot of crossover as far as like watching the shows. You know, people would watch several of those shows because they're similar enough that they can understand, and vice versa, whether that be radio, TV, newspaper.
I see what you mean. So when you are putting the information about your certain channel, you should also, as part of the information, you should say also there are other communities because they're similar in tradition, and that should be the media component that you should be pitching. So
Yes,
for example, it's one group, let's say one group you have 20, 30,000 people, right? Or another group would have another 50, 60,000. So what you can do is collectively bundle them and said, despite their different nationality, because the offering, the programming of our show also appeal to these groups.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Who else has a question? Yes, Olga. You have to unmute.
Yes. Hi. Hello. First of all, I would like to thank you for very interesting, very insightful presentation. It was, thank you. And my question is, basically Muhammad asked, and it already came up, but you mentioned the most major ethnic groups that the advertising are interested in reaching, and is there any minimal threshold for other communities like to be of an interest to an advertisers?
There's not really sort of so-called threshold. It's not like said, oh, I have to have 100,000 people. Okay. But however, there are advertisers that you would never have thought they would go for one group, but it's because, for example, location of a store that they're opening. So which means we would have to research into what is the population, and even before they build that store, they would be able to identify which are the mixed population there, right? So even if it's a smaller population of a group, but they make up the component of the consumer around that stores, then they would be advertising, to that group. They never set a number, said, oh, we have to have at least 50,000 or 100,000 or 500,000 people. They never would do that because at times they, of course, major big population, of course, will get the priority because number counts, right? But it also looked at where their interest is and the pockets of interest in that neighborhood. So even though it might be just 100,000 people, but that 100,000 people, they want to drive them when they're opening a new grocery store. So that 100,000, I'm just saying, I'm making up, it could be Greek or Macedonian, right? So then they would definitely be placing ads in those newspapers.
Russian, yes.
If they have radio. So it's really very customized. Very customized. So, I mean, we have client that is opening stores in Edmonton, in Saskatchewan, in Calgary, and Saskatchewan. There's not that many Chinese there, you know. So it's not that they said, oh, Chinese is the biggest, and we're going to advertise. But Saskatchewan hardly have any Chinese, so they would have to look at what are the top population group of ethnic groups there, and then they are. So that's why I'm saying to you, there's no threshold.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But also, I would add to that point that sometimes, you know, your media vehicle, your communication vehicle, is the only conduit for that specific community.
Yeah.
And I think we were on a panel with APTN, Aboriginal People's Television Network, that said that they have a community of a specific Indigenous language. Only 60,000 people are speaking that language, but certainly important to reach, because that is a singular vehicle that is reaching out to this language group. So I think that's something very important for the smaller numbered communities, where you are the only conduit for that community.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, other questions? Renato Zane from Vancouver.
Hi, Sharifa. Renato, I used to work at Omni. Good to see you. Thank you for the presentation. I used to work at Omni, so that's about it. But I wanted to your presentation is really interesting, especially as others have said at the beginning, with some of the samples of the creative that was targeted by brands for different groups, right? But I'd like to come at it from the ethnic media perspective, if I may. Even at Omni, when I was working at Omni with Madeline and Stan and others, it was very difficult for us, a Rogers company, diverse media within a Rogers company, to get the kind of data that these brands are looking for. So you talked about, persona targeting, that kind of data, measurability, scalability, transparency was so difficult for us. And I'm concerned that media is shrinking in this country. So in terms of how we can attract these kinds of media buys, is there some way that we can work with marketing agencies like yours so that you can help us be that connecting bridge, or you're the broker or the bridge between the big brands and us? Like, if we don't have that kind of data that Facebook and Google and others have, what can we do to still attract these marketers? And I think you have a lot of knowledge. And have you worked with other media like us before? And can you give us some examples of media that are really good at this, so that we can understand what we can aspire to?
Madeline, I just want to say, one of the things that I talked about just now was that how ethnic media have to move forward, right? That you cannot stay in the same condition and said that, well, I'm the oldest and most established media outlet in this community. That just would not fly. And also, it's very difficult for us to be able to justify, putting it as part of the media plan. Mind you, we still go to a lot of print, because those are print that we know. And I've been in the business over 30 years. So I know who the boys and the men, right? And those are the prints that are very, very credible. They've served their community well. So it's not that we don't buy print at all, but also at the same time, those print media outlet, you have to change too. You have to put your, not just print on paper, but also have it digital, so that it's easy access for people. But there's one, Madeline, Singtao, right? So
Sure.
Singtao has moved along. So what they have done is that I'm not a digital analytical, and I think Johnson can, be able to explain even better than me, is that they digitize, they have to digitize their assets. There's a lot of homework to be done. And then that's when you are going to partner with, it could be Facebook, it could be Google, it's so many other different platforms. And now they're getting very, very, very sophisticated. They actually drill down to your ethnicity. They know the age group. They know your media habit. So this is actually a partnership that you can do as an ethnic media, so that they would what we call the ad serve. So they are able to give you measurable results, and that's what you need to prove as a media outlet, because there is a certain formula for clients that for every dollar spent, they have an expectation of whom they have reached and whether they have reached it effectively. If I'm targeting millennials, I don't want my money to be spreading all over the place, because it's a wastage. It's it's a difficult time, there's no doubt about ethnic media, but it's just that what you need to do is that you have to move along and look at some of the best practice that is out there, and how some of the ethnic media have made themselves to be measurable. Measurable is very, very important, because you will be left on the wayside. Yes, you would still be very important to your own community because of the news and information that you provide, but also at the same time, that's not good enough. You want to be paid attention by corporate marketers too. You want the advertising dollar to be coming in. And I
Yeah, I'd
cannot,
like to add here.
maybe Johnson can.
Yeah, I think one thing is get your media, out of the traditional way, add value, get yourself into the ad exchange server, ad network. That's one thing. Another thing is a lot of mainstream advertisers are looking at the influencer, for example, right? If you yourself can cultivate some influencers, your own writer to become an influencer on social media platform per se, right? Or you work with already the known influencers in your community, work with them, right? And package it as your solution to the advertiser or to us as an agency, and say, hey, I have print ready, I have influencer who can do on social media to magnify the voice. And that's something that we as an agency will be able to sell your media easier to our clients, right? So we're looking at, like Sharifa said, integrated, right? So you have to diversify your platform, augment your voice, right? Onto different platforms, whether it's digital, traditional, point of sales, social. So you have to think of different ways, and not just focus on one channel.
Yeah, I think that this works for the larger groups, and it's a real challenge for the smaller groups. And what about the idea of creating special content for advertisers? In other words, let's say I'm a Greek radio station or a Greek newspaper. Would it make sense, for example, to do an automotive section so that I can attract a Greek language content from Mercedes or from Kia? It doesn't matter. Do those kinds of initiatives work, or is the data measurability first and foremost, and then you can think about these kinds of other ideas? What do they work together, or can they be separated? For
I would say they need to work together. I mean, you have to prove that your community has that consumption power of, say, to Mercedes, for example, right? If you can prove that, okay, 20% of my community spends X amount of dollars, or out of the 3 luxury brands, because BMW is our client, right? And their default competitor is Audi and Mercedes. And if you can come to Mercedes and say, hey, I know for a fact that 50% of our community people will buy Mercedes instead of the other 2 brands, then that's probably a good reason you should try us out, right? And then we can work together for a campaign, and let's see how the result is, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Avril, you have a question?
Yes, question for both Sharifa and Johnson. I'm looking at the creative side of things, and I noticed one of your slides earlier had some really interesting artwork. And I also worked at Omni for a little while, and I learned a new word when I was there, a new English word, which was transcreation, and understanding the sensibilities of communities and the kinds of things that are important to them or they're preferential. So how do you start that process? How do you look at, I think there was a great ad you had there, I think for Campbell's soup. And in the steam, there was a word, and I thought, oh, that was very clever. I love the look of it. Where do you start? I mean, in trying to help communities, reach that goal?
Well, for the Campbell campaign, it's so interesting. It's because Campbell in Canada is the only company that developed soup, halal soup.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was not in US because of sensitivity and political reason, because of the multicultural audiences that we have and also the Muslim community. So they develop especially a soup is halal soup of different flavors. Right. So I was asked by the CMO to come out and be able to develop that is a creative that cross between Arabs, Pakistani, what would, because they speak differently also, but what is the one symbol that cross all of them is the theme of halal, the symbolism of halal. So one look at it, it doesn't matter if you're an Arab or Afghan or, Ismaili, then that, this is halal soup. So you have to really look at what are some of the creative that would actually, looking at through a cultural lens, that what are some of the nuances that would touch their heart? Yeah. They would right away look at it and also be curious about it, and then drive curiosity and then drive consideration to buy it. So every time there is if there's a mainstream campaign, so it will be, the client would also have us at the table, and then there will be a certain campaign they want to promote what they're doing, but they would come up with, let's say, a slogan in English, right? So it's up to us. So they would give us a brief, but the intent is to promote this certain product or service, right? But what we'll do, we'll take it back, and then we will come out with a top line, a POV, a voice on it saying, this doesn't work. Because first of all, if you do a translation, which is the biggest mistake, people do Google Translate and all that, and then it's actually, even if you translate, it doesn't even make sense. But what you have to look into is a sentiment of exactly what the client is trying to say. So what is the value proposition of that particular service or the product? Then you will look at what will that be important to a Chinese? What would that be important to a South Asian? It could be the same because they're immigrants, but it could differ. So what we have to do is come up with what we call transcreation, having the same objective, but also at the same time be able to develop the creative and the messaging that would connect that target group, and because if you do a lot of translation at times, it would backfire. So that's how we start at the very beginning. We are also fortunate enough right now that actually clients will allow us to actually do totally original creative, because they feel that you can't even transcreate some of the campaigns.
Yeah. Well, thank you. That's an area of interest to me.
I have a question. In one of your visuals, I think in a chart, you had Caucasians and then you had ethnic. And my point being that many Caucasians are ethnic. So I don't remember the order where that visual came up, but certainly it was a pie chart that differentiated population. So it's Caucasian and then ethnic. And my point being that many Caucasians are ethnic.
Well, you know that, Madeline, a lot of times these are really from census too, you know, and a lot of people that are of origin, like even German or some groups, particularly if they are in second or third generation, they would identify themselves. Is this the pie chart, the one that ethnic group, the one that I have? South Asian, Chinese, Filipino, Arab? Is that the one, John?
It just said Caucasian and then it had ethnic. So I just wondered what's the differentiation there?
I don't even, which one is that?
It's the 2031 projection pie chart.
You took good notes, Renato.
Sorry, that's what
Oh, yeah, right. Caucasians and then ethnic. And right there on the right.
I have so many charts that I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
Which, Johnson, have you seen it?
Yeah. Yeah. So
that is actually the same thing. What we have done is that we're not making this up. It's basically people that have
from Stats Canada. Yeah.
From Stats Canada, that basically it could be second or third generation that have European that already identify themselves as Caucasian, and that's where we pick up the numbers.
Right. So that's an issue to be dealt with Stats Canada.
Yeah, we didn't really break it down to, like, I don't think they even did. And if they did, the numbers are quite small, whether they would, break down into Ukrainian, and German, and all that. So this is what they have done is what they have grouped it. So, but I think the whole point of the chart is looking at the growth rate, that, in 2031, that it is going to be double of 7.7 million, which is what we have.
Right. But I think, I'm happy to pursue that with Stats Canada. They're on several committees with me because that is a total misnomer. Yeah. And I don't know how they got that kind of identification, because you can't say that Caucasians are not ethnic, right?
Yeah, because and
even if you're second or third generation, you're still ethnic.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's also at the same time, also, Madeline, it's really depending by the generation of third and second, how they identify themselves as. So they, Caucasian Canadian. So there's something is what some of the results, but I remember way back when we started, and of course, when your dad started, Europeans were the dominant group, right? And at that time, my first client was Bank of Canada, and I was helping them to promote Canada savings bonds. What are the community that I went into and helped promote? Ukrainian, Italian, Greek, and the European community, Portuguese. So those were the dominant group at that time, and we call them ethnic, right? Because they are the first generation. So I think as it come along, what StatsCan is doing is probably lumping everybody together.
Well, that's incorrect then, but that's an issue to be had with Stats Canada, I think. So interesting, yeah.
But this chart is trying to prove where the growth is for corporate marketers, that's all.
Right, right. But still, I think it's a misappropriated definition.
It is. Indeed.
Yeah, yeah. Anna, I see you have a question, Anna.
Yeah, I'm trying to get myself here. I actually had the same question because when I worked with the Canadian Ethnocultural Council and we helped with Stats Canada, I just don't recall ever having that kind of definition. So I'm just not sure where it's coming from, but I think I would be concerned if that was the language used in front of companies, because they would assume that that is the correct language, and it's not. So I don't know if I made my point clear on that one. So yes, It needs to.
What do you mean correct language? You mean terminology?
Terminology. Yeah. Caucasian, it has not been used for very
terminology.
Yeah. And then by using that with corporations, for someone who's coming from who is an expert, they will assume that that is the correct terminology when it is not anymore.
Well,
flagging that because
we were picking up from some of the studies that they have.
Well, I mean, I can reference the Canadian Agricultural Council. I worked there for 20 years, and we never did that. And we worked with Statistics Canada, we worked with Elections Canada. It was never that.
I know some of them were presented as so-called mainstream, you know, they call Canadians, but then Canadians is also making up of immigrants too, right?
But they're not Caucasian. I mean, they're just like saying, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'm just flagging that, Madeline, you're right. Maybe if Stats Canada is using that kind of language, it's important to follow up because it's not appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah. So even I don't know where you got that slide, but we both Anna and I have connections at Stats Canada, and maybe we can delineate how they categorize those two, because I think when you're looking at second and third even generations, that you can be Caucasian but you're still ethnic.
Yeah.
So that's an issue I think that has to be flagged with them, because I think it is it's not reflective at all, I think so.
Okay. Any questions? Nope.
And any further questions from anybody? So
well, I wanted to mention that Sharifa and her team are going to have a workshop scheduled for very soon, probably in the fall, I would think, Sharifa. And then you would take us through that workshop, that how we can implement whatever you told us and how we can basically take it upon ourselves to improve ourselves for the post-corona marketing era. And so we prepared for that. And that's something that I wanted to say thank you to Sharifa and her team. And also wanted to recognize Sharifa for being one of the sponsors for the CIMA's website, and commencing soon. And we're looking forward to have a many opportunity to work with you, Sharifa, and your amazing team, and to get everybody ready for what future is being basically is waiting for us. So anyway, wanted to say thank you that. And
pleasure. See some old friends and see some new friends.
Yes, and obviously through that we're gonna inform everybody of that date for the workshop, and so everybody would be coming up there and having a
workshop. Will definitely be with my media team.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that would be great.
Talking all the analytics and what are some of the things that up and coming trends, etc. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone, and thank you to all members and board members for joining us, and stay tuned for more great guests for Speakers Bureau.
Okay then. Have a good night.